Okay, so picture this. You're walking down a grocery store aisle,
Yeah.
just surrounded by all these brightly colored boxes, bags, bottles,
hmm
and they're all shouting about natural flavors or low-fat, wholesome goodness, all those buzzwords.
Yeah, the marketing is definitely turned up to 11.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what if a lot of that isn't really just food? What if it's something meticulously well-engineered,
hmm
designed maybe not just for taste, but for something else, like making you buy more, eat more, even crave it more?
That's the core question, isn't it?
It is. So today we're pulling back the curtain on this. This deep dive is all about exploring the science of food engineering. We want to really unpack its direct impact, sometimes pretty surprising, on your health, your weight, even your mind.
And it's fascinating because, food engineering itself, it isn't automatically a bad thing. Not at all.
Right. That's important to say up front.
Yeah, historically, it's actually been used for some incredible public health achievements, real triumphs.
That's a really crucial point.
Mhm.
Because, looking back, food engineering actually started out as a force for good, didn't it? Can you give us some examples, those early wins?
Absolutely. Think about goiter. Serious thyroid condition, right?
Yeah.
Virtually wiped out. Just by adding a tiny bit of iodine to salt. Simple table salt.
Wow.
Or rickets in children. You don't hear about it much now. Why? Because milk was fortified with vitamin D.
Right. I remember hearing about that.
These were massive public health victories. It
Yeah.
was science solving real widespread nutritional problems, not about making food addictive or anything like that.
So using science directly for, human well-being, it shows you the power food science can have when that's the goal.
Precisely.
But,
Yeah.
and this is the big but, isn't it? The
Sure.
story takes a turn. How do we get from that life-saving science to, what people now worry is ultra-processed addiction? What changed?
The goalposts moved,
Oh.
fundamentally. It shifted from, nutrition and preventing deficiency diseases towards profit.
Profit, okay.
Modern food engineering is, it's a different beast. It's about creating products that last forever on a shelf, taste exactly the same everywhere in the world, and cost almost nothing to make.
And the main vehicle for this shift?
Ultra-processed foods, UPFs, that's the term you hear now. They are sort of the primary tool for this new objective.
UPF. Okay, so that sounds like a pretty major change in priorities. For us, then, walking through that grocery store feeling maybe a bit overwhelmed, how can we even tell what is an ultra-processed food?
Well, it's often simpler than you might think. You just need to look at the ingredients list.
Yeah.
Forget the front of the box for a second.
Ignore the hype.
Exactly. Turn it over. If the list is short and it's got stuff you'd recognize, stuff you might have in your own kitchen, flour, eggs, sugar, butter,
Yeah, normal stuff.
then it's likely minimally processed. But if that list is long, like really long, and it's full of words you probably can't pronounce easily, emulsifiers, thickeners, artificial flavorings, high fructose corn syrup, all that stuff, then yeah, you're almost certainly looking at a highly engineered product.
It's like you said, a chemistry quiz in aisle 5.
Pretty much. And it's not just the ingredients they add, right? It's also about the industrial processes.
Ah, okay. What kind of processes?
Well, a big one is called extrusion. This involves high pressure, high heat, basically squishing and shaping mixtures into familiar forms.
Like what?
Oh, think breakfast cereals, those puffy cheese snacks, even things like chicken nuggets often start this way.
Right.
And this kind of heavy processing, it fundamentally changes the food's matrix, its structure. It often strips out really important things like fiber and micronutrients, vitamins, minerals.
So they take the good stuff out.
Yeah.
Fiber, nutrients. But then they make the food incredibly appealing somehow. This is where that sort of dark magic of sensory engineering comes in, these flavorists.
They are definitely masters of their craft in a specific way. Their whole job is designing a particular sensory experience, often one that's frankly irresistible.
How do they do that?
Well, they add back artificial flavors, for instance, making something taste intensely like chicken when maybe there's not much actual chicken involved. Or they use emulsifiers. These aren't just about texture, though they create that creamy mouthfeel, sometimes better than real cream.
Right.
They also help bind ingredients that don't naturally mix, like oil and water. This gives a consistent product and helps it last longer on the shelf.
Okay, so texture, flavor.
Oh, and even the sound. Think about the crunch of a specific potato chip. That's engineered too. Designed for maximum satisfaction, maximum reward signal in your brain.
Wow.
The whole goal is to create what scientists call hyper-palatability.
Hyper-palatability.
Yeah.
Even the term sounds intense. Like food designed to be just impossible to stop eating.
Yeah.
Hitting all those pleasure points, salt, sugar, fat all at once.
That's it exactly. It's a very deliberate design. The aim is often to bypass your body's natural fullness cues, your satiety signals.
So your brain keeps saying yes, even when your stomach is saying, no, really, we're good.
Precisely. Your brain wants more, even if you're physiologically full.
And okay, this design, this engineering, it must have direct consequences for our health. Where do you see the biggest impact when we talk about these hyper-palatable, ultra-processed foods?
I think the first place to look is the gut. Your gut microbiome,
Yeah.
those trillions of bacteria living in your digestive system.
Yeah, vital for digestion, immunity,
Yeah.
all sorts.
Absolutely. And they thrive on things like fiber and diverse natural nutrients from whole foods. But many of the common ingredients in UPFs, particularly things like emulsifiers and some artificial sweeteners, they can disrupt this delicate ecosystem.
Yes, how?
They can sort of irritate the gut lining, promote the growth of less beneficial bacteria, and potentially lead to low-grade inflammation. Over time, this can contribute to poor digestion, maybe bloating, discomfort, but also potentially bigger issues related to immune function.
Okay, so the gut's definitely one area. And then what about the brain connection and weight? We hear constantly about rising obesity rates. Is there a clear link?
Oh, absolutely. A very direct link. Remember that hyper-palatability,
Yeah.
that carefully crafted combination of salt, sugar, fat, it triggers a significant dopamine release in the brain's reward center.
Dopamine, the feel-good chemical.
Exactly. And the response is actually quite similar to what you see with addictive substances.
Hmm.
Your brain learns to associate these foods with intense pleasure and reward, driving you to seek them out again and again. It essentially overrides those I'm full signals we talked about.
Making you eat more than you need.
Right, which leads directly to overconsumption. And over time, that contributes significantly to weight gain and obesity. And beyond just weight, study after study shows a consistent link between high UPF consumption and an increased risk of serious conditions like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and even certain types of cancer.
Wow. So it's not just the calories, it's the addictive quality and the downstream health risks.
And it's also about what these foods displace.
What do you mean?
Well, if the bulk of your daily calories are coming from these highly engineered, often nutrient-poor foods, then you're inevitably eating fewer real whole foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins. Your body might feel full, calorie-wise, but it's actually being starved of the essential vitamins, minerals, fiber, and antioxidants it needs to function optimally.
So it's like a hidden malnutrition almost.
Yeah.
You're full, but not nourished.
That's a really good way to put it. Calorie-rich, but nutrient-poor. It's a major problem.
That is. Yeah, that's a sobering thought.
Hmm.
Puts my next trip to the supermarket in a different light. Okay, this can feel like a lot. It's easy to feel a bit, overwhelmed or maybe even scared by all this.
Sure.
But here on the deep dive, we really try to focus on awareness leading to empowerment, right? Not just fear. So what can people actually do? Are there some practical steps, maybe some simple rules we can use to fight back a bit, take control?
Definitely. And they don't have to be complicated. Rule number one, I'd say, is read the ingredients list. Seriously. Ignore the flashy claims on the front of the package for a moment.
Yeah, the healthy heart logos on sugary cereals.
Exactly. Turn it over. Look at that list. Is it super long? Does it read like a chemistry experiment? That's your biggest clue right there that it's a heavily engineered product. A useful rule of thumb some people use is the 5-ingredient rule. If it has more than 5 ingredients, maybe just pause and investigate a bit more closely. What are those extra ingredients?
That's actually really practical. Just count them.
Okay.
So read the label. What else?
Rule 2 is about navigating the store itself. Shop the perimeter.
Ah, yes. I've heard this one. Why does it work?
Well, think about how most grocery stores are laid out. The fresh stuff, produce, meat, fish, dairy, eggs, it's almost always around the outer walls, the perimeter.
Right.
The middle aisles, that's where you typically find the shelf-stable, heavily processed items. The UPFs often live there. So if you consciously spend most of your shopping time around the edges...
You naturally end up with more whole foods in your cart.
Exactly. It's a simple strategy, a sort of environmental hack, to steer yourself towards less processed options without having to analyze every single item.
I like that.
Yeah.
Simple but effective. Okay, what's rule 3?
Rule 3 might be the most powerful one. Cook one more meal at home each week.
Just one more. That sounds doable.
It really is, and it's arguably the single best way to regain control over what's actually in your food. You don't need to become a gourmet chef overnight.
Yeah.
Even making one simple meal from scratch pasta with a basic tomato sauce, maybe some roasted vegetables, scrambled eggs, it replaces one potentially highly engineered meal. You control the salt, the sugar, the fats, the ingredients. You know exactly what's going into it.
It breaks that cycle of hidden ingredients and, like you said, hidden nutritional deprivation.
Precisely. It empowers you directly.
Okay, so let's recap. Read the ingredients, look for short lists,
Yeah.
shop the perimeter of the store, and just try to cook one more meal at home. Simple, actionable steps.
They really are. It's about shifting the balance back towards real food.
So, thinking about all this,
Yeah.
food engineering is clearly this incredibly powerful tool, isn't it?
Absolutely. Double-edged sword.
Yeah. It can be used to nourish whole populations, like we saw with iodine in salt, vitamin D in milk. Those were amazing achievements.
Life-saving stuff.
Or it can be used, as we see a lot today, maybe more commercially, to create dependency, drive consumption, and ultimately drive profits.
And just understanding that difference, that duality, is hugely empowering because every time you go to the grocery store, every time you pick up a package, you are interacting with some level of food engineering. Sometimes simple, sometimes incredibly sophisticated.
Right. So with this awareness we've talked about today, hopefully you listening feel a bit more empowered. You can become the conscious engineer of your own plate, your own health, making choices that go beyond just the flashy marketing on the box.
It's about making informed choices.
Exactly. So here's a final thought to leave you with. Take a look in your own kitchen later today, your pantry, your fridge. Based on what we've discussed, what's maybe the most surprising engineered food you find lurking there? Go have a look. You might be surprised.